He pulled the dying alien from the flames. By dawn, it looked human and spoke his name. The explosion hit like a fist to the chest. Dominic Riker felt the shockwave before he heard it. Pressure slamming through the refinery corridor hard enough to crack the reinforced viewport beside him. Emergency klaxons shrieked to life, red warning lights strobing across smoke that billowed from the processing wing. He was already running, medkit slapping against his hip, boots pounding metal grating as miners scattered past him in the opposite direction. Breach in Sector 7 crackled over his comm, multiple casualties. "I'm on it," he said, shouldering through workers who pressed themselves against the wall. Heat rolled down the corridor in waves. Through the thickening smoke, he could see flames licking up from the refinery floor below. He pulled his respirator up and descended the emergency stairs 3 at a time. The main processing floor was chaos. Overhead conveyors hung at twisted angles, sparking, coolant sprayed from ruptured pipes. Through the haze, Dom could make out bodies, miners crawling toward the exit, one pinned beneath a fallen beam. Then he saw movement deeper in the wreckage where the flames burned hottest. Something alive in there, something wrong. "Riker, fall back," Administrator Hamish's voice barked through the comm. "That section's going to collapse." Dom moved closer. Not human. The proportions were all wrong. Too many limbs, segmented like an insect's, movements jerky and desperate. One appendage reached toward him, and even through the flames he could see the creature's body was burning, chitinous plates cracked and weeping fluid. "There's someone alive in there," Dom said. "That's not someone, that's a contamination risk. Get out now." The creature's limb extended further, trembling. Through the flames, Dom saw what might have been eyes, compound, multifaceted, reflecting the firelight. They fixed on him with an intensity that hit like a physical force. Whatever this thing was, it was conscious, dying. Dom ran into the flames. The heat seared even through his protective gear. He grabbed a thermal blanket from a nearby emergency station and plunged forward. The metal beneath his boots was hot enough to feel through his soles. Up close, the creature was nightmare material. 7 feet long, its body covered in segmented armor that was cracked and blackened. 6 limbs, maybe 8, hard to tell with several crushed beneath debris, each ending in something between a hand and a claw. Its head was elongated, dominated by massive compound eyes and mandibles that clicked weakly. "I've got you," Dom said. He grabbed the creature and pulled. It was heavier than it looked, and the moment he touched it, the alien's body convulsed. Those limbs wrapped around him, clinging. He could feel the heat radiating from its burned carapace. A support beam groaned overhead, the ceiling beginning to sag, metal glowing red. Dom pulled harder, dragging the alien backward. Its limbs scrambled weakly. One claw caught his shoulder, tearing through his jacket. The exit was 30 feet away. 20, 10. The ceiling gave way with a sound like thunder. Dom threw himself forward, still holding the alien, and they tumbled through the doorway as burning metal crashed down behind them. The blast doors slammed shut. For a moment, Dom just lay there, lungs burning, the alien's body pressed against his. He could feel it breathing, short, rapid movements that sent tremors through its frame. "You insane son of a bitch!" Dr. Yumi Santos appeared above him. "What is that?" "Patient," Dom managed. "We don't know its biology." "Then we learn." He sat up and looked at what he'd rescued. Large sections of its carapace were cracked, oozing greenish fluid. Several limbs appeared broken. Those compound eyes had filmed over. "Help me get it to medical," Dom said. Yumi hesitated, glancing back where other miners were gathering. "Hamish is going to have your head." "Let him." Dom slid his arms under the alien again. The creature barely moved. Up close he could smell it, sharp and organic, utterly foreign. As he adjusted his grip, one clawed appendage shifted, coming to rest against his chest. The touch was almost gentle. "Medical," Yumi said finally. They made it to Dom's quarters with a dedicated medical bay attached. He laid the alien on the examination table. The creature's eyes tracked him. Yumi ran her scanner over the alien's body. "Its internal temperature is fluctuating wildly. I don't think this thing can survive." "Then we keep it comfortable." "You risked your life for something that's just gonna die?" Dom met her eyes. Yeah, he said. Yumi held his gaze, then shook her head. I've got other patients. When Hamish comes looking for answers, you're on your own. She left. Dom was alone with the dying creature. He spent the next hour doing what he could. He cleaned the worst burns, applied coolant gel to cracked sections of carapace, administered a mild sedative. The creature's trembling eased. All the while, those compound eyes watched him, and occasionally the mandibles would click in patterns that felt almost like speech. I know it hurts, Dom said softly. One of the alien's functioning limbs lifted, reaching toward his face. Dom held still, letting the alien touch his cheek. The gesture felt grateful. Something twisted in Dom's chest. How long had it been since anyone had looked at him like that? Too long. That's why he'd taken the colony posting, to get away from Earth, from the hospital where he'd failed too many times. Out here, he could be useful without forming attachments. Yet here he was, already attached. You're gonna make it, he told the alien. The alien's mandibles clicked twice, then its eyes began to dim. Stay with me. Dom checked its vitals, as much as he could measure. Everything was weakening. He worked frantically. Nothing helped. The alien's breathing grew shallower, its limbs went still. Dom found himself leaning over the creature, hands pressed against its carapace. Please, he whispered. The alien's remaining eye focused on him one last time. Its claw touched his hand, squeezed weakly. Then it went completely still. Dom slumped into the chair beside the table. He'd failed, again. He didn't know how long he sat there. Eventually his eyes grew too heavy. He told himself he'd rest for just a moment. His head dropped forward and he slept. When something soft touched his face, he jerked awake. The medical bay was dark, except for emergency lighting. The chrono read 0547. The touch came again, gentle against his jaw. Dom's eyes adjusted, tracking to the examination table. What he saw made his breath catch. The alien was gone. In its place, a woman lay on the table, completely naked, her skin luminous in the low light. She was on her side, facing him, one hand extended. He could see her features, delicate but striking, with high cheekbones and full lips. Her hair cascaded over her shoulders in waves of blue-teal that seemed to shift colors as she breathed. She opened her eyes, pale amber with flecks of gold, pupils slightly too large with a faint inner luminescence. Those impossible eyes focused on him, and her lips curved into the smallest smile. Dominic, she said, her voice like music filtered through glass. You saved me. Dom's chair scraped backward as he stood, his heart hammering against his ribs. The woman, the alien, remained on the examination table, watching him with those luminous amber eyes. Her blue-teal hair spilled across the metal surface like liquid silk. What are you? His voice came out rough. She sat up slowly, unself-conscious about her nakedness, and swung her legs over the edge of the table. In the emergency lighting, her pale skin had an opalescent quality, catching and reflecting light in ways human skin shouldn't. My name is Ashara, she said. I'm an envoy, a shapeshifter. Dom grabbed a blanket from the supply cabinet and held it out to her. She took it, their fingers brushing. Her skin was warm, almost hot to the touch. You were dying, I watched you. Transform, Ashara said, wrapping the blanket around herself. My species has evolved a unique survival mechanism. When we're rescued by another sentient being, our biology responds to the rescuer's nature. We take a form designed to facilitate connection. She stood, tall and graceful. She stepped closer, tilting her head as she studied his face. You risked your life for me, a complete stranger, something that looked like a monster. That kind of selfless compassion is rare in the galaxy. You're saying you turned into this because I pulled you out of the fire. Because of who you are. Ashara reached up, her fingers hovering near his cheek. My transformation reflects what I sensed in your mind during the rescue. What would help us connect most effectively? Dom stepped back, needing space. This doesn't make sense biologically. You were insectoid. Chitinous armor, compound eyes, completely different skeletal structure. Can't I? Ashara extended her arm. As Dom watched, her skin rippled, and for a moment he could see something beneath, complex patterns of light and energy like circuitry made of bioluminescence. Then it faded. My species doesn't have a fixed form. We're adaptable. Why? Ashara moved to the viewport, looking out at the colony's industrial landscape. The blanket slipped slightly, revealing the curve of her shoulder blade. We're observers, evaluators. For the last 50 years, we've been studying humanity, watching you, trying to determine if your species is ready for contact with the wider galactic community. Contact, Dom said flatly. You've never been alone. There are thousands of spacefaring civilizations in this galaxy. She turned back to face him. But not all species are invited to join them. Some are too violent, too selfish, too dangerous. And you're deciding whether humans make the cut. The metamorphosis protocol, it's what we call this process. An envoy places themselves in danger, and we observe how the local species responds. Do they help? Do they exploit? Your response determines everything. Dom's jaw tightened. So this was a test? You deliberately put yourself in danger? No. Ashara's voice was sharp. The explosion was real. The sabotage was real. I was dying, Dominic. If you hadn't pulled me from those flames, I would be dead. Sabotage? She moved closer, and this time when she reached up, she did touch his face. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw, and Dom felt a shiver run through him. There are factions within my species who oppose contact with humanity. They believe humans are too primitive, too dangerous. They sabotaged my ship, tried to kill me before I could complete the protocol. And now they know I survived. They know I've transformed. And they're coming to finish what they started. Her hand dropped to his chest. They'll kill me, Dominic, and they'll kill you because you've seen me. Dom caught her wrist. How long? Hours, maybe less. They'll come in force. This colony doesn't have the weapons to stop them. Then we evacuate. It won't matter. They'll level this entire facility to erase all evidence. Dom's mind raced through scenarios. His grip on her wrist loosened, and his thumb found itself tracing small circles on her pulse point. What do we do? He asked. Ashara's eyes met his, and in their amber depths, he saw vulnerability. We complete the protocol. It's the only way to protect you, protect everyone here. If I can prove that humanity deserves contact, my people will have to listen. How? She took a breath. The transformation was only the first stage. My species doesn't just observe compassion from a distance. We integrate with it. To complete the protocol, we need to undergo neural linking. Neural linking? A temporary merger of consciousness. Our minds and bodies connect completely. I'll experience everything you are, and you'll experience everything I am. Memories, emotions, sensations, all of it shared. Her free hand came up to join the other on his chest. It's deeply intimate, Dominic. Dom's breath caught. He could feel the heat radiating from her palms through his shirt. And if I refuse, pain flickered across Ashara's features, then I'll be recalled. My people will extract me, wipe my memories of you, and humanity will be deemed too fearful for contact. You'll be left alone in the universe, never knowing what you could have been part of. That's not fair, Dom said. You're asking me to... Trust me, Ashara finished. Completely, I know. She met his eyes. But you already trusted me once. You didn't know what I was if I was dangerous. You did it anyway. Dom's hands moved of their own accord, settling on her waist over the blanket. She was warm and solid and real. This linking, could it hurt you? Hurt me? No, but it will change us both. You'll never be quite the same person you were before. Neither will I. The station's alarm system suddenly shrieked to life, red lights flashing in the corridor outside. Ashara's head snapped toward the door, her whole body tensing. They're here, she said. Already? They're not taking chances. She looked back at him, urgency bright in her eyes. Dominic, I need your answer. Will you trust me? Will you let me in? Outside, he could hear shouting, boots running past his quarters. The colony was going into lockdown. Dom thought about the alien he'd pulled from the flames, the creature that should have been terrifying but had touched his face with such gentleness, the woman standing before him now, asking him to bare his soul. He'd spent years running from connection, from the risk of loss, but looking into Ashara's eyes, he realized that some risks were worth taking. Yes, he said, show me how. The explosion rocked the medical bay, throwing Dom against the examination table. Ashara caught him, her reflexes inhumanly fast, steadying him with strength that belied her slender frame. Through the viewport, he could see bright flashes in the darkness, ships descending toward the colony, weapons firing. "We're out of time," Ashara said. She moved to the door controls, fingers dancing across the panel. The lock engaged with a solid thunk, and she activated emergency reinforcement protocols. Metal shutters began sliding down over the viewport. "That won't hold them long," she said, "minutes at most." Dom's training kicked in, overriding fear. He'd worked in combat zones before. "What do I need to do?" he asked. Ashara let the blanket fall. Dom's breath caught, but this wasn't about desire. Not only about desire, this was necessity. She crossed to him, movements urgent. "The linking requires physical contact, skin to skin, as much as possible." Her hands went to his jacket, pulling it off his shoulders. "Our nervous systems need to synchronize." Dom helped her, shrugging out of the jacket, pulling his shirt over his head. The medical bay was cool, but Ashara's proximity radiated heat. She placed her palms flat against his chest, and he felt a jolt run through him like static electricity. "Close your eyes," she said softly. "Focus on my touch." He did, her hands on his chest, the brush of her body against his, warmth spreading from every contact point. "Breathe with me," Ashara whispered. Dom fell into sync with her breathing, their chests rising and falling together. The heat intensified, spreading through his torso, down his limbs, sensation building on sensation, until he couldn't tell where his body ended and hers began. "Now open your mind," she said. "Let me in." Something shifted, like a door opening in his consciousness, and suddenly he could feel her. Not just her physical presence, but her thoughts, her emotions flooding into him. Terror, loneliness, hope, curiosity, all tangled together, raw and immediate. And beneath it all, desire, for connection, for understanding, for him. Dom gasped, his hands coming up to grip her waist. Ashara made a small sound, and he realized she was experiencing him too, his memories cascading into her awareness. The hospital on Earth, the patients he couldn't save, the guilt that drove him to this remote colony. "I see you," Ashara whispered, her voice inside his head and outside it simultaneously. "All of you." Another explosion, closer this time. The medical bay shuddered. Through their connection, Dom felt Ashara's spike of fear. "They're in the main corridor," she said, breaching the security checkpoints. "How much longer?" "The link needs to deepen. We're only at the surface level." She pulled him down to the floor, and they sank together onto the cool metal, their bodies pressing closer. Her legs wrapped around his waist, her arms around his neck. The position was intimate, almost unbearably so. "Don't be embarrassed," Ashara said, and he could feel her amusement through the link. "This is what the protocol requires, complete vulnerability." Her fingers threaded through his hair, and she pressed her forehead against his. The contact sent another surge of energy through their connection, and suddenly, Dom was somewhere else. He was standing on a world with 3 moons, watching a sunset that painted the sky in colors Earth had never seen. He was young and afraid because he was about to leave his home forever, about to become an envoy and spend centuries alone among the stars. "My first assignment," Ashara's voice echoed through the memory. "I was terrified." The scene shifted. Now he was on a dozen different worlds, wearing different forms, watching civilizations from the shadows, always observing, never connecting. The loneliness was crushing. He felt tears on his cheeks and didn't know if they were his or hers. "I've been so alone," Ashara said, her voice cracking, "for so long." Then he was back in the burning refinery, seeing himself through her eyes, seeing a human running toward her when everyone else ran away, feeling her shock, her desperate hope that, maybe, finally she'd found what she'd been searching for. Someone who would choose compassion over fear. Dom pulled back just enough to look at her face. Tears streaked down her cheeks. He reached up, wiping them away with his thumb. "I see you too," he said. The link surged deeper. Now he could feel her body from the inside, the strange alien biology beneath her human appearance, could feel the energy patterns that held her form together, and beneath that he felt her desire, not just intellectual or emotional, but physical and immediate. She wanted him, wanted this connection, wanted to stop being alone. Dom kissed her. It was instinct, overwhelming need. Ashara made a sound against his mouth, surprise and relief and hunger mixed together. The link blazed brighter, and Dom felt his own desire reflected back, amplified until he couldn't tell whose feelings were whose. Her lips were soft and hot, moving against his with increasing urgency. Her fingers tightened in his hair. The bioelectric energy between them intensified, crackling across their skin. Dom's hands slid down her back, and through the link he felt exactly how his touch affected her. It was intoxicating. Every sensation doubled, echoing between them in an endless feedback loop. The door to the medical bay shrieked as something began cutting through it. A thin line of brilliant light appeared, moving slowly around the frame. Ashara broke the kiss, breathing hard. "They're here," she said, "but we're close, so close." "What happens when it completes?" Dom asked. "We'll be bonded, permanently connected on some level, even after we separate physically. You'll carry part of me, and I'll carry part of you." She cupped his face. "The protocol will be fulfilled. My people will have to acknowledge that humanity is capable of this kind of intimacy." "And the ones trying to kill you?" "They'll have to stand down. Once it's complete, I'm under the protection of the Galactic Council." The cutting line had traveled halfway around the door. Through it, Dom could hear voices speaking in a language that hurt his ears. "Dominic," Ashara said, her amber eyes locked on his, "I need you to trust me completely. No barriers, no holding back. Can you do that?" He thought about what she was asking, to let someone see every part of him, every failure, every weakness, to be completely known. It should have terrified him. Instead, he felt free. "Yes," he said. Ashara's eyes blazed brighter, and she kissed him again, deeper this time. The link exploded open between them, barriers shattering, and Dom fell into her consciousness even as she fell into his. They were no longer two separate beings touching. They were merged, intertwined, a single consciousness experiencing itself from two perspectives simultaneously. The merger was complete. Dom could feel his own heartbeat and Ashara's, their rhythms synchronizing into a single pulse, could feel the cool metal floor beneath his back and the warmth of her body pressed against him. Could feel everything from both perspectives at once, doubled and overlapping until the boundary between them dissolved entirely. Through her senses, he experienced his own touch on her skin, electric, sending shivers down her spine. Through his, he felt her fingers tracing patterns on his chest, each contact point blazing with shared sensation. The feedback loop intensified, pleasure building exponentially as each touch registered twice, 3 times. Ashara gasped against his mouth, and Dom felt her surprise at the intensity. She'd done this before, the protocol required it, but never like this. Never with someone whose compassion ran so deep it had reshaped her entire being. The door shrieked louder. The cutting beam was 3/4 complete. "They're almost through," Ashara said. "We need to finish this." Dom's hands moved to her hips, pulling her closer. Through the link, he felt her body respond, felt the heat pooling low in her abdomen, felt her need matching his own. This was more than physical. It was the culmination of everything, the final barrier falling away. Their bodies moved together, instinct and intention blurring. Every sensation rippled through their shared consciousness, amplified and reflected until Dom couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel. Ashara's back arched, her head falling back, and through the link he experienced her pleasure as his own. The bioelectric energy between them reached critical mass. Light began emanating from their skin where they touched, blue-white and brilliant, spreading across their bodies in branching patterns like lightning frozen in flesh. The cutting beam completed its circuit. The door crashed inward. 3 figures stormed through. Tall and angular, their bodies covered in segmented armor similar to what Ashara had worn. Warriors, weapons raised, their compound eyes fixed on the 2 humans entangled on the floor. The lead one spoke, sounds like grinding metal. "Ashara," it said, and Dom understood the word through their link. "You violated protocol, contaminated yourself with primitive genetics." Ashara lifted her head, and Dom felt her fury through their connection. "I've completed the protocol," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "The link is established, Kethros. You have no power here. You think bonding with one human proves anything? The alien Kethros stepped closer, weapon aimed at Dom's head. You've compromised yourself, made yourself weak. Through the link, Dom felt Ashara calculating, and beneath that, he felt something else. The connection between them was still strengthening, still evolving. The protocol wasn't just complete, it was active. Shoot him and you kill part of me, Ashara said. You kill the link, you destroy the very evidence you claim doesn't exist. Then we'll kill you both, Kethros said. Dom felt Ashara's plan crystallize in their shared mind an instant before she moved. She rolled, putting her body between him and the weapons, and simultaneously pushed a thought through their link. Trust me. He did, completely. Energy exploded outward from Ashara's body. Not heat or light, but something else. Something that existed in the space where their consciousnesses merged. Dom felt it flowing through him, using him as a conduit, amplifying through their bond. The three aliens staggered backward, their weapons clattering to the floor. Kethros made a sound of shock. What have you done? It demanded. Ashara stood, pulling Dom up with her. They moved in perfect synchronization, their bodies responding to shared intention. The light patterns on their skin had stabilized, forming intricate designs that pulsed with each heartbeat. I've shown you what humanity is capable of, Ashara said. This bond isn't weakness, it's strength. It's what we've been searching for across 1,000 worlds, a species capable of true synthesis. Through the link, Dom understood what she meant. The protocol wasn't just about testing compassion. It was about finding partners, species capable of genuine integration. Most civilizations failed because they held back, kept barriers in place. But humans had opened completely, had given everything, without reservation. And in doing so had created something neither species could achieve alone. The Council will never accept this, Kethros said, but its voice had lost certainty. The Council will have no choice. Ashara's hand found Dom's, fingers interlacing. The link is permanent. Dominic carries my genetic markers now, and I carry his. We are the bridge, Kethros. We are proof. Dom felt the truth of it through their connection. His body was already changing, adapting, integrating alien elements into his DNA. Nothing visible yet, but at the cellular level, he was becoming something new, something hybrid. And Ashara, through their link, he could feel her taking on aspects of his humanity. The loneliness that had defined her for centuries was fading, replaced by connection. Real, lasting, unbreakable connection. You've contaminated the protocol, Kethros said, but it was lowering its weapon. I fulfilled it, Ashara corrected, beyond what any envoy has achieved before. The aliens exchanged glances, communicating in frequencies Dom couldn't hear, but Ashara could. Through the link, he caught fragments: shock, confusion, reluctant acceptance. Finally, Kethros nodded. The Council will want to see you both, it said, to verify the link. We'll come, Ashara said, but not as prisoners, as ambassadors. The word hung in the air. Ambassador. Representative of humanity to the galactic community. The weight of it settled on Dom's shoulders, and through the link he felt Ashara's steady support. You won't be alone, her thought whispered through their connection. Never again. Kethros and the other aliens withdrew, their hostility replaced by wary curiosity. The door remained open, but it was no longer a threat. It was an invitation. Dom looked at Ashara, really seeing her for the first time since the link completed. Her eyes still glowed with that inner light, but now he could see himself reflected in them. She was part of him, and he was part of her, merged so completely that separation would be like tearing out half his soul. What happens now? He asked. Ashara smiled, and through the link he felt her joy. Now we show them what we've become, she said, together. The council chamber materialized around them in layers of light and geometry that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Dom's human eyes struggled to process what they were seeing, but through the link, Ashara's perception filtered in, helping him understand. They stood on a platform that floated in what looked like the void between stars, surrounded by dozens of alien forms, some humanoid, some insectoid, some that defied classification entirely. Steady, Ashara whispered, her hand tight in his. Let them see what we are. The light patterns on their skin had remained since the bonding, subtle but visible, blue-white traceries that pulsed in synchronization with their shared heartbeat. Dom could feel the aliens' attention focused on those patterns, analyzing, measuring, trying to understand what they represented. A voice spoke, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "Envoy Ashara, you stand before the Galactic Council to present evidence that humanity is ready for integration." Ashara straightened, and Dom felt her confidence flow through their link, steadying his nerves. "I present more than evidence," she said. "I present proof. Humanity is not just ready for integration, they're capable of synthesis beyond what we've achieved with any other species." Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens, sounds in a dozen different frequencies. Through Ashara's senses, Dom caught fragments of their reactions: skepticism, curiosity, concern. "You've bonded with a single human," another voice said, this one female and somehow ancient. "How does one individual prove the worthiness of billions?" Dom felt Ashara about to respond, but something made him step forward. Through the link, he felt her surprise, then her approval. "Because I'm not special," Dom said, his voice carrying in the impossible space. "I'm ordinary, a medic on a mining colony. No training in diplomacy, no genetic enhancements, no exceptional abilities. I just saw someone dying and couldn't walk away." He felt the attention shift to him, weighing, assessing. "That's what humanity is," Dom continued. "We're flawed, yes, violent sometimes, selfish often. But we're also capable of extraordinary compassion. We'll risk everything for strangers. We'll sacrifice ourselves for people we've never met, not because we're programmed to, but because we choose to." Through the link, he felt Ashara's emotions swelling. Pride, affection, something deeper that made his chest tighten. "The protocol has never produced a permanent bond," the ancient voice said, "yet you claim to be linked indefinitely. Demonstrate this claim." Ashara looked at Dom, a question in her luminous eyes. He nodded. She closed her eyes, and through the link, Dom felt her consciousness withdraw slightly from her body. The effect was immediate and disorienting. Her human form began to shimmer, the light patterns intensifying. Then, slowly, her body began to shift. Her blue-teal hair darkened to black, then shortened. Her features restructured themselves, cheekbones shifting, nose broadening. Her height decreased by several inches. Within moments, she no longer looked like the woman who'd woken on his examination table. She looked like someone else entirely. But through the link, Dom could still feel her essence unchanged, could feel her consciousness intertwined with his, unaffected by the physical transformation. "Form means nothing to us," Ashara said, opening eyes that were now dark brown instead of amber. "We are shapeshifters. But this," she placed her hand over Dom's heart, "this bond transcends form. I could take 1,000 shapes and Dominic would still know me, still feel me, because we're connected at a level deeper than biology." She shifted again, and this time her form became something alien. Segmented limbs, compound eyes, the insectoid shape she'd worn when Dom first found her. The assembled council members stirred, clearly unsettled by the rapid transformations. Through it all, the link remained steady. Dom could feel her discomfort in the alien form, feel how much effort it took to maintain it, feel her relief when she shifted back to the blue-haired woman he'd first seen. "Impressive," the ancient voice conceded. "But synthesis requires more than emotional bonding. It requires practical application. What can humanity offer the galactic community?" Dom felt Ashara's frustration through the link. They were asking the wrong questions, focusing on utility instead of potential. But before either of them could respond, the chamber shuddered. Alarms blared, harsh and discordant even in this strange space. The aliens around them began moving with sudden urgency. "What's happening?" Dom asked. Through the link, Ashara was already accessing information, her consciousness touching the Council's communication networks. "A distress signal," she said, her face paling. "One of the outer colonies is under attack. A species we've been monitoring. They've developed weapons technology faster than predicted. They're not ready for it. They're destroying themselves." "Can you help them?" Dom asked. "We've tried before," the ancient voice said, tinged with sadness. "We cannot interfere directly. Our laws prohibit it. By the time we could negotiate permission to intervene, it will be too late." Dom felt something click in his mind, an idea forming. Through the link, Ashara felt it too, and he sensed her sharp attention. "But I could," Dom said. "I'm not bound by your laws. I'm human, an individual. If you transported me there—" "You're a medic," Kethros's voice cut in. The alien warrior had accompanied them to the council. "Not a soldier, not a negotiator. What could you possibly accomplish?" "I don't know," Dom admitted, "but I have to try. Isn't that what you wanted to see? Whether humanity was ready? Here's your answer. We don't wait for permission to help. We don't calculate odds of success. We just act." Through the link, he felt Ashara's fear for him, her desperate desire to keep him safe. But beneath that, he felt something else, her understanding that this was exactly what needed to happen. "I'm going with you," she said. "Your presence would violate non-interference protocols," the ancient voice said. "Then I go alone," Dom said, "but I need transportation, and whatever medical supplies you can provide." Silence fell over the chamber. Dom could feel the council members deliberating, weighing risks against potential rewards. Finally, the ancient voice spoke again. "Very well, we will transport you to the conflict zone, but understand, we cannot guarantee your safety. You may die attempting this." "I know," Dom said. Through the link, Ashara gripped his hand tighter. "If you die, part of me dies with you," she said quietly. "The bond works both ways." Dom turned to face her fully, cupping her face in his hands. Through the link, he shared everything he felt, his fear, his determination, his absolute certainty that this was right. "Then I'd better not die," he said, and kissed her. The kiss was brief, but intense, charged with everything they'd shared and everything they'd become. When they pulled apart, Ashara's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Come back to me," she whispered. "Always," Dom promised. The chamber dissolved around him, replaced by blinding white light. When it faded, Dom found himself standing on the surface of an alien world, smoke rising from burning structures in the distance, the sound of weapons fire echoing across a barren landscape. He took a breath, felt Ashara's presence steady in his mind through the link, and started running toward the chaos. Through their connection, he felt her whisper, "Show them what humanity can do." Dom intended to do exactly that.